My name is Celeste Refutation, and I'm here to refute against the claim that social media has a negative effect on a child's brain development, on how a child's brain develops. My opponent's secondary claims are that social media has a negative effect on children's attention spans, and that is due to lack of physical activity that the outdoors provides, and children of that generation would rather stay indoors updating and reading social media network posts. Their second claim was that social media has a negative effect on children's literacy, and their third claim is that social media has a negative effect on children's mental development. My claim to refute that is that the use of social media does not have and allows for children to have a healthy brain development. My claims are that my first claim is that having access to social media will help those children who are passionate about sports be updated on the latest news, therefore keeping them motivated to continue their sports performance and other physical activity. My second claim is that social media helps children connect with others for homework help and the exchanging of ideas, which will help them in their academic careers in the long run. And my third supporting claim is that there is no direct correlation between the use of social media and a child's mental development. So my response to the secondary claim one is, as you recall, their claim was that social media has a negative effect on children's attention spans, and this is due to lack of physical activity and outdoors. Children of this generation would rather stay indoors updating and reading social media network posts. So, challenging the evidence was that the main statistics provided for this claim was that the average attention span in 2000 was 12 seconds, while the average has dropped to 2015 to 8.25 seconds. And that was said to be reported by the Brain Research Institute. So yes, this does prove that people's attention spans have shortened overall, but there is no specific rate mentioning that this only happened with children and that this affected their development. They also state that the exponential growth of Facebook ties directly to the shortening of attention spans in children. However, there is no explanation as to how that was proven. Reasoning challenges is that this claim states that the shortening of attention spans has something to do with the lack of physical activity. However, there are no statistics mentioning the rates of physical activity in children and how it is tied to social media usage. The advocate does, however, mention how news stations such as CNN rely on their news anchors' pretty faces to keep the audience's attention. But there are only I believe there are only a very low percentage of children who actually watch the news, and news differs from social media networks. So my claim against this is that having access to social media will help those children who are passionate about sports be updated on the latest news, keeping them motivated to continue their sports performance and other physical activity. My claims for this is that children are exposed to information they are interested in by the usage of social media. A lot of values, such as attending college and how important education is for your future, is also promoted through social media. And ESPN is on all social media platforms and helps endorse sports, which can also motivate young children. There was a mention, like I said before, that social media makes children lack physical activity, but I believe these would promote it. For their second claim was that social media has a negative effect on children's literacy. There is not much statistics provided to prove this claim true. What is mentioned is that the word limits on some social media sites, such as Twitter, will only let us use 140 characters, have put our society as a whole decreasing the word usage. According to Devin Hunter of MediaShift.org, Thanks to social media sites like Twitter, we are left with short narratives and tiny pieces of information that our generation has to piece back together and figure out on our own what news is and what is just folklore. The advocate also points out how mostly everything written in the social media platform is abbreviated, such as BRB, which means be right back, RN, which is right now, and ATM, which is used as an acronym for at the moment. However, does not give any studies or proof of how this is directly affecting a child's literacy. And then their reasoning, this claim states that social media has a negative effect on children's literacy, but does not state the decrease on word usage, on how the decrease of word usage or abbreviations directly affect children only. The advocate basically just explained how it affected everyone overall, but it didn't directly affect children, which is the main focus of their main claim. My response to their second claim is that social media helps children connect with others for homework help and the exchanging of ideas, which will help them in their academic careers. To support this, according to the American Academy of Pediatrics, students are using social media to connect with one another on homework and group projects. For example, Facebook and similar social media programs allow students to gather information outside of class and to collaborate and exchange ideas about assignments. Some schools successfully use blogs as teaching tools, which has the benefits of reinforcing skills in English and written expression and creativity. So the uses of social media is actually being used in the classroom. So, I mean, teachers are using it for a reason. In fact, even here at Cal Poly Pomona, we have various groups on Facebook to be able to connect with fellow students about things happening on our campus. So that helps us be involved, and it also helps us grow as a development. Social media is used to keep everyone informed and alert about things that are happening around us. As times move forward, so should we.
I got to cut you off. You're at 7 minutes right now, so sorry. All right, same sort of issue that I mentioned before. We've got a preview of what the secondary points were that the advocate presented. Then we got a preview of the arguments that you're going to be presenting. Then when we get to the individual points, you repeat those points, and then you present the counterclaim on those individual points. I think you could skip that middle one pretty easily. Remind us what the advocate's argument was quickly, get through that in about 30 seconds, and then go right to your arguments. It takes you 2 minutes to get to the place where you're actually beginning to make your arguments. On the physical activity information, I think you try to diminish the notion of attention spans being different by pressing the issue about what impact it has on kids. That's a legitimate question. I don't know that you've made an argument. You've just raised a little bit of a doubt there, and you've got kind of a press. I think you could do that with, you could have done that immediately after the speech. I think it would be helppful to have some information or some other reasons of your own on this point, but I thought you did have a good press on this point. And the notion that it's hard to link it to Facebook, or that the advocate's evidence claims it's linked to Facebook but doesn't explain it, I thought that was pretty effective. The challenge that news is not social media, that's okay. The counterclaim that says access to sports information is good because it's going to encourage their activity. That's a bit of a stretch, and you don't really have much information there except that ESPN is on all these social media. But is there any information that kids are utilizing that information to stay up on anything other than their fantasy football leagues, or to play video games, which is not exactly the kind of thing that's going to benefit their health? I think there's a big assumption on your part that needs a lot more information to develop it. On the word limits issue, on the next point, I thought that you had a couple of interesting ideas that it means simply that people have to work a little bit harder to understand things, which is not necessarily a bad thing. And then again, a couple of presses about the kids. And then they've got the counter argument that you make right at the end before I unfortunately cut you off. Sorry about that. Was that these kinds of things could be helpful academically, and you kind of make a general argument. You're using Cal Poly as an example, but if there was anything that applied more, I don't think of you guys as kids. I think of you as adults, and so if there was something that applied more specifically to children, I think that would be helpful. All right, thank you.